I was asked to read a poem tonight that Paul was originally supposed to read, but as everybody saw during the ceremony, there's no way he's going to get through 17 pages of this. So, this is a poem that Paul wrote. It's called Woman and Waiter. And if you'll bear with me for 17 pages, this is how it goes. 'Twas a few years ago when a boy met this girl, and their lives were soon filled with the joy of the world. See, the boy was awaiting on tables indeed, in a cafe in Chelsea where the girl would soon be. She came in with her boyfriend all sunny and tanned, and they shared a long cigarette while holding young hands. But the waiter was smitten with a face that was gold, so pretty was it in fact that to another waiter he told, "See, Marco, that girl is the woman I'll marry. She's perfect and kind and, uh-oh, she's looking right at me." Yes, the woman eyed the waiter, and the waiter was caught, but the waiter to her looked familiar, she thought. And the waiter was waiting on her every last move while the boyfriend was clueless, but hell, what could he do? And yet the waiter would go home too lonely that night, for the girl of his dreams had slipped out of sight. But the waiter was lucky, he'd later find out, because the woman was living within one loud shout. And in the building where the waiter resided, one day, the waiter saw the woman he'd waited on in May. So the waiter asked the doorman, who was that woman there? And the doorman told the waiter, that woman lives here. And the waiter responded by writing a note, asking her out with a quick-witted quote. Then the waiter decided to climb up one floor and slip his perfect note right under her door. But then the poor waiter, who thought he knew waiting, truly found out about patience and dating. Yes, the waiter was waiting, like good waiters do, for the woman to tell him she wanted him too. But such was not happening, no, not in this case, for the woman ignored him, even with his cute face. But they'd soon meet again just about 3 weeks later, in an awkward moment in the third elevator. Yet the boy was aware the moment couldn't be greater, she hoping he'd disappear, him hoping he'd date her. And in that fearful ride up, he decided to say, "Hi, I'm Paul, and I'm sorry for that note the other day." She implied she was flattered, and told him it was nice, but she did have a boyfriend who she currently liked. And that was the status for 2 years to come, until one fall night when the boy became numb. See, the girl had arrived at a bar he was in, and she planted a kiss on his cheek just for him. And when she simply said hi, the boy was just blown away, for she'd never ever given him even the time of day. But she proceeded to sit down at his table with his friends, and she laughed and she smiled, and he knew right there and then. 'Twas the night that their lives would become changed forever, for from that moment on they would live life together. See, that night she agreed to go out on a date with this waiter who was waiting 2 years for this fate. And while I wish I could tell you the rest was real easy, the truth is she made him struggle and queasy. See, for 2 months or more, every couple of days, she'd break up with him gladly, and sadly he'd pray. Yes, he felt that this girl would come around, so why fret? All she really was doing was playing hard to get. So each day on her door, he would duct tape a rose. And each day she'd remove it and tell him she's closed. You're a waiter right now who's also a musician, and if you think that sounds promising, you better keep wishing. The last thing I need is to date a songwriter. You're nice and you're sweet, but your wallet is lighter than a feather in the wind, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but it just ain't for me, and please, don't write me a song. But he stayed and kept dreaming and lived in her breeze, just praying someday she'd see what he sees. And wouldn't you know it, on a warm New Year's Eve, she realized she loved him and told him indeed. And his eyes were of crystal, and his heart was of gold, for the woman he dreamed of him too, he was told. Which brings us to the present, and this glorious night, August 8th, 98, let us bask in the light. 'Twas the night of their marriage, and all was just fine. The props were assembled, the groomsmen in line, and the bride was a-glowin' with moments of pride, as the day had arrived when the knots would be tied. And the parents were brimming, for their children were right. They found their own sweethearts somewhere, some night. And the groom saw his future in rivers of pride as he bristled at thinking of wedding the bride. Yes, the evening was perfect and all was aglow at the highest point New York City will ever know. Atop the great building were the boy and the girl, married on floor 106, windows on the world. And they had all their friends who were dearest to them share this great night with her and with him. It was fun and, yes, festive and rolling with laughter, and that's exactly the vibe that the couple was after. Yes, the night was a dream as we celebrated love, for two people have found it, so what's it made of? Well, it's something that happens, not something you plan, but it's something you cherish and can't understand. It's something so special it deserves celebration, and for all who attended, it was one glorious occasion. For Jackie and Paul, woman and waiter, their lives are now one, and he always will date her.